So he signs his first name, and I kept the contract for years. And he looks up and he says, "So do you have any ideas about what approach you're going to use for doing the film?" And I started my pitch about, no, we're going to bring in a whole team, and there'll be writers, and there'll be this and that. And my new assistant says, "Well, yeah." And the owner sets down his pen with the check laying there. And he says, "Yeah." And he says, "What's your idea?" And I broke in again and said, "No, we don't want to get into that now. We want to wait till whatever." And the owner of the company says, "No, Wayne, I want to hear what this young man has got to say." And he said, "Okay, tell me your idea." So my new assistant gets up and is actually making hand gestures. And he looks up to the ceiling and he said, "We open the film with a shot of the sun, the giver of life." And the owner's going, "Yes, yes." And then we pan down to the verdant green of Mother Earth. And the owner's leaning forward now, "Yes." And then my assistant goes, "And then we pan beneath the grass into the rich humus of Mother Earth." And we go down and down until we are face to face with your mascot. And the owner says, "What is it?" And my young assistant says, "An earthworm."
Oh, no.
Now,
Oh,
Richard,
no.
yeah.
That's
I mean,
terrible.
you've heard the old joke about dropping dog doo into a punch bowl at a party.
No,
How
I
after
haven't,
the
but
initial
that's
plop,
what it's like.
it gets quiet. Yeah. And he sat there for a minute and he looked over at me and he said, "Do you mean to tell me that you think I've worked 40 years of my life to be represented by a worm?" And that was that. Yeah. And,
There it went. That
uh,
was it. That just wrecked your whole business. And so
that
I
was
guess
it.
the worm.
You
I
know,
guess the worm was your assistant, huh?
yeah, that was it. And it's the only time in my life, and I'm almost ashamed to say so, but we got out in the front steps of this big plant, and I fired that kid on the spot. I'd never done that before or since. And he was the heir to a company. He was the son of the owner of a vitamin company. Well, I don't know if it's vitamins, but supplements that still exists today. And he said, "How am I going to get home?" I said, "I don't care. Crawl like a worm. Do whatever you want to do. I don't care."
I love that.
And I later heard,
Go
yeah,
ahead.
I later heard that the kid, after a meteoric rise in his family's business, became CEO. And Richard, I don't think they ever did a company film.
Yeah, I guess not.
So, yeah.
Well, what happened when you donated? This is another story. These are great stories. What happened when you donated a bar to the Salvation Army? A bar.
Well, yeah, that was another weird deal. We when we had our software company, I'm originally from South Dakota, Minnesota, that area,
Oh,
and we had the idea to open tech support offices in these little towns because the internet give them work and it'd be
yeah.
really financially advantageous. So while we were there, we had the operation there for 5 years, I guess it was, and we bought a little lot on a lake,
Hmm.
and I blame my because we were thinking about just building a little cabin, just a little one of those things with a chainsaw bear outside and things like that. And one day we're driving around, and in the Midwest, it's a big deal to actually move houses. I mean, people move houses there. A farmer
Yeah.
sells his farm and they move their house to town. And
On a
you
big
can't do
truck,
it
on a big
in
semi or
Northern
something.
California. Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's exactly how it's done. It's the darndest thing. And so my wife was driving around one day and she said, rather than building a house, why don't we just buy one of these beautiful old Victorian homes and move it to our lot? So, with the most innocent of statements, the door to hell opens, right? And so
It's
we
true.
found this huge Victorian, and yeah, and we when we moved it, we had to pick it up in this town where it was, and after we'd bought it, naturally afterwards, the um, the town came to us and said, "Okay, to get a permit to move the house, you have to completely fill in the basement," and it was huge.
Oh,
And there can't be any debris left in the basement. And this house had a huge bar in it, My God, Richard, it must have been 20 feet long with an antique
Right.
back bar. This house has
Oh,
been around forever. Yeah, it was
sure. With
huge. And the bar, yeah,
and you had
old
a
bar.
what beer, a beer, what a beer keg and all of that, or
Oh, yeah, it was. I don't know if they put it in during the 20s, during Prohibition or whatever, but it must have weighed 2 tons. And so we're looking at this, and we couldn't even get it out of the basement. And so I thought, well, this will be simple. We'll just give it to the VFW club or something here locally. And we gave it a shot, and nobody wanted it. It was just too big. And so finally, a guy I knew gave me the card of the captain of the Salvation Army.
mm.
And I thought, Salvation Army was founded on not drinking. They're not, yeah. So I called, so
That's
I,
true.
yeah. So I called the guy, the captain, and he said, "Sure, we'll take it." And I
Uh,
said, "Really?" And he said, "Yeah." And I said, "The thing is really heavy." He said, "Okay, not a problem. Thanks for telling me." So the day they're going to move it, up comes a Salvation Army truck, and behind it come 2 buses with signs on the side, painted signs saying "County Jail." And 40 inmates or something piled out of these buses, picked up the bar and the back bar, loaded it on the Salvation Army truck, and they got back in the buses and went back to jail. And my wife and I are standing there going, "What was that?" And and I, and I went over to the captain of the Salvation Army. I said, "Do you mind if I ask you a question?" He said, "No, fire away." And I said, "Wasn't the Salvation Army founded on not drinking? And you're taking this bar?"
Sure.
And he looked at me and he looked up at the sky and he looked back at me and he said, "The Lord works in a mysterious way."
That's a great story.
He
That's
got
a
his, he went off. He went, "Yep."
Listen, Wayne, we only got a few minutes left, so I got to hear about how you lost this $10,000 at the Hollywood sign.
Oh, well, that's under the heading of, the biggest disasters sometimes turn out to be your biggest triumph. That as we started getting on our feet in California, we still were doing corporate shows, and we used lasers, which were brand new then, just to kind of add some spice to it. And one day, my phone rings, and this guy says, "Are you the ones with the lasers?" And I said, "Well, yeah, I didn't own any lasers. I'd borrowed them." And
Sure.
he said, "Well, we have the contract to use searchlights on the Hollywood sign when it's unveiled on a live CBS program going to the whole country." That was when they refurbished the Hollywood sign because it was falling down. He
Right.
said, he said, "What could be more perfect than to add lasers?" And I said, "Oh, I can't think of a thing." So gave us the contract. And I had no lasers, so I went and borrowed those by promising screen credits on this huge TV show that I had no authority to do.
Okay.
And we got a water truck and a power truck on credit because there's no power or water at the top of Mount Lee, which is where the Hollywood
Right.
sign is.
Oh,
So comes the
okay.
day of the show. We're up there, me and Gloria and I had just recently gotten married. So here we are, the Hollywood sign overlooking the twinkling lights of Hollywood in Santa Monica. I mean,
Sure.
this is a big deal, right?
Yeah, I know.
Richard, it never sleets in Southern California, but it sleeted that night. And so they had a live show down below uh, with a gal by the name of Lola Falana, who I love that woman. I never knew her, but here's somebody who had her own song, "What Lola Wants, Lola Gets," and
Uh-huh.
she won a hunk of the Mets in a baccarat game, which
Oh,
she
geez.
later sold for 14 million bucks. I love her, and I don't even know her. And so anyway, came our moment to go. They gave us the cue. It's sleeting on our lasers. We turn it
Okay.
and it blew up. $5,000.
Oh, no.
Yeah. So Gloria and I are holding umbrellas over the second one. We turn it on. That one blew up. So now we just wrecked $10,000 worth of lasers.
Oh,
And so the next day, I said to Gloria, "Well, we tanked in front of 15 million people, but at least we get paid today." So I called the company and I said, "I'd like to come down and get our check." And the guy started laughing and he said, "Good luck with that. They just went bankrupt." And
oh, no.
yeah. And so I'm sitting at my desk, and Richard, I don't know if I was weeping, but probably. And Gloria comes in and joggles my elbow and said, "You have got to see this." And she was holding up a copy of the LA Times. and they had a rave review about the show, mentioning us over and over again. The flashing lasers and the Hollywood sign, the dawn of a new era, blah, 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 blah.
Oh, man.
And what had happened is the reporters, when it started to sleet, all went into the trailer with the open bar, and everybody got hammered. So when the searchlights went on from our bankrupt company, they assumed it was lasers. And we got the best credit I ever got for that show, where we didn't do anything. We made a lot of money on it later.
That's fantastic. And I guess you paid back the 10,000 that you had rented for the rented lasers and everything.
Yeah.
Listen, Wayne, unfortunately, we only got, I think, maybe 30 seconds left. Time really flies when you're having fun here. Just tell the people about your book. It's called Tales from the Day. It's one of your books. How many books do you have? And then I got to cut you off.
Okay. Well, actually, I've just finished and put up the second one. Tales from the Day is available on Amazon.com because Jeff Bezos needs the money.
No, he does. Good.
Yeah.
And then there's the other one, isn't it? Or no?
The other one is one I wrote after going through the publishing experience called "You're an Author, Don't Get Hustled."
Okay, I want to read that when you come. I want to read them all, actually. So
yeah, it's available on Amazon as we speak as well.
Okay.
And I have a website, WayneMcFarland.com.
Okay.
And you can reach me there, email me, or tell me I suck or whatever, whatever moves floats your boat. So.
Well, whatever you do, you don't suck. And we only have a few seconds left, Wayne. I would like to thank Wayne McFarland for being my guest today. This is Richard Bont, host of Curmudgeonly Yours. I got to get that right. Host of Curmudgeonly Yours on Society Bites Radio. Thank you, Wayne McFarland. So I'd like to thank our guests for being on Curmudgeonly Yours today. And please, if you like what you heard, send me an email to richard@richardbont.com. And if you didn't, please keep your comments to yourself. Remember, this is Richard Bont and Curmudgeonly Yours on Society Bites Radio, where everything is what it seems, nothing is what it seems, and what is not said is often of most interest.